I'm here in the Garden of Gethsemane, and I'm speaking a little bit quieter because people all around me are in their scriptures and prayer. But as you can see right next to me, there's an olive tree in Gethsemane. In fact, Gethsemane itself means olive press. And so this is a place there would have been many olive presses, and you have the olive trees here. And these trees are a few hundred years old. They're not like tradition would have it. They date back to the time of Christ. When the Romans came in, they actually cleared out all of this, of all the trees, we're told. But we're here in the garden, and the fact that we have these olive trees around us is phenomenal and really very special. Just want to read a text of scripture. It says Luke chapter 21. It says, "Each day Jesus was teaching at the temple, and each evening he went out to spend the night on the hill called the Mount of Olives. And all the people came early in the morning to hear him at the temple." And so this, of course, is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Passover, and Jesus is in the city. And it's like much of our modern cities today. Anytime there's like a big event that happens, the city expands, all the hotels fill up. Well, in Jerusalem, if you can imagine, in that day, everything, as people are coming to the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the whole city is expanding and all the hotels are filling up. And on the Mount of Olives here, all the way back in here, people would actually camp out. There would be many tents that people would stay on. And so the scripture in Luke chapter 21, verse 37, says each day Jesus would go up into the temple, which is just right over here, and then he would then come back here each evening and spend the night on the Mount of Olives. And so it seems like then that would be natural that even if he's way on the other side of the Mount of Olives, that at some point there was a place that he would come with his disciples, and that would be to this Garden of Gethsemane. And he'd have a place of prayer and a time with his disciples. It was a place that they knew well. It was a place that Judas knew well. And so Judas must have been with them even as they stayed on the Mount of Olives. During the feast like this, he would know where Jesus would go to when he was not in the temple by day and as he came back in the evening. And so the next chapter, Luke chapter 22, it says, "Now the festival of unleavened bread, called the Passover, was approaching. And the chief priests and teachers of the law were looking for some way to get rid of Jesus, for they were afraid of the people. And so Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, one of the 12. And you know the story, how he betrays him. And what's interesting is that night in Luke chapter 22, verse 39, it says that Jesus went out as usual after the Last Supper to the Mount of Olives, and his disciples followed him. And on reaching the place, he said to them, 'Pray that you will not fall into temptation.' And he withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, and he knelt down and prayed, 'Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but your will be done.' And an angel from heaven appeared to him and strengthened him." So Jesus is actually caring about his disciples. He's caring about their thoughts. The angel comes and strengthens him himself. And Jesus is here in this Gethsemane, this olive press, if you will, symbolically that he himself now is being pressed down with this great load of care, so much so that the scripture tells us that he sweat, as it were, great drops of blood. And so this is a very special place. It's a place of meditation, a place of reflection, and a place of really strength, because it's the place that Jesus resolutely continued to align his will with the Father's, even as we can decide to do every day as we walk in the Spirit.